Okay guys, just a quick video on how to create a roof. At least this is how I would do it with this mesh that I have. So I want to utilize the faces that I already have. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to extrude all of the faces on top. Then we're going to collapse or merge some verts to create a peak that's going to be right in the middle. So to to select the top faces, the easiest thing to do is this. Sometimes it's easier to select more than you want and then deselect what you don't want. In other words, if I go to wireframe and I drag select and make sure I have all of those top faces, if I go to my front or side orthographic view, I can hold down control and deselect the ones that were selected on the side. So now when I look at it, I have all of those faces on the top. So now with those faces on the top selected, I can quickly do an extrusion, and there we go. All of the faces will extrude at the same time. I can take this up. Doesn't matter how high I take it up at this point. I can adjust it later. And then I want to merge the verts one row at a time. So I go to select by vert. And again, I'm going to go to wireframe to make sure I can see through everything, and I select only the verts I want. There's my top front row. And I'm going to go to edit mesh, merge, and I'm going to check out my options because I want this number to be pretty big to make sure all of the verts will merge. Now with that ready to go, I have it at 20 units, which is a pretty big number for merging verts. I'm going to hit apply, and then one at a time I'm going to select the rows, apply, 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 orbiting around to get a good angle on these selections, apply, and I'm going to hit merge so that window goes away. Now we have a peak, and then the next thing we want to do is create the actual roof, right? So again, we're going to select, I'm going to show you one thing to be aware of. You would think that I could again select all of my rooftop faces, and I'm going to hit 4 and orbit around to make sure I didn't accidentally select what I don't want. That looks pretty good. And so if I do an extrusion now, you would think that this would work. So if I pull this up just a little bit to create that roof, it looks pretty good. But if I orbit around a little bit, you'll start to notice that there's some crookedness that has sort of crept in on this. If I start going a little bit crazy with this, you'll see that things are getting skewed up top. And I really don't know the reason why. I'm sure there's a mathematical reason why, but that's a problem. So I'm going to undo that, and before I extrude the top, I want to get rid of all of these edges so that we only have basically 2 large faces. So to do that, I have to select by edge, and I'm going to Control Shift and add to my selections. Again, I'm just clicking on these edges. And again, I'm going to go to wireframe by hitting 4 real quick to make sure I didn't accidentally select an edge. I don't want to delete. That looks good. Now I'm going to hit backspace to get rid of those edges. Now one thing you have to remember about deleting edges is that it leaves the verts there. So you can see up top here, I still have all of those verts that I want to delete now. Otherwise we're going to have the same problem during extrusion. So a rule about deleting edges is you can only delete, deleting vertices, you can only delete the vertices when there are 2 edges attached. So in other words, this one right here, if I select it, has 3 edges attached to it. If I hit backspace right now, it does not delete. These up here only have 2 edges attached to each, so I can confidently drag select all 4 at the same time and hit backspace, and they go away. Now we can try to do an extrusion again with just those top big 2 faces, even though there's a bunch of edges over here on the side. I'm going to hit extrude, and I'm just going to pull it up a little bit. That looks pretty good. Maybe that's a little bit too thick. That looks good right there. The top part, again, because of mathematics, doesn't quite get as thick. I'm looking at this edge here compared to those edges. So I'm just going to bump up that entire edge just a little bit. Now what we can do to get the overhang in the front is if we select by face, the 2 front faces, we can extrude that. And I'm going to go straight out with it. And for this, I'm going to look at my local translate because I want the back to be about the same distance off the back. I'm going to go a little bit more. So I have this number here. I'm going to triple click in there and copy it. Control C. And then I'm going to go to the back two faces, that one and that one, do another extrusion, and I'm going to paste into local translate Z to get the same distance. Now we can go to turn our symmetry on, so we can do two at a time, and I'm going to extrude, oh, not that one yet. I'm going to do that. I want to do this whole side here. So we can extrude both at the same time. So you can see the other side is selected as well. Do an extrusion. This time we pull this out, and both sides are going to be symmetrical. So if we want to be exact, we could probably paste into there and get the same distance off the side as we did off the front and back. That looks pretty good. So that's one way of building a roof. Now, one last thing really quick. If I take this off, you'll see that some of my edges have turned soft because of all of the deleting and things we did. To get those edges back to being hard edges, I'm going to select the entire house. Oh, there's the bell. And before I forget, because I've done a lot of things to this house, you can see all of this history in here. I'm going to delete my history just to clean it up a little bit. And then I'm going to harden the edge by going to Mesh Display, Harden Edge. Boom. And now when I click off of it, you'll see that we have everything has hard edges, nice creases above and on top of the roof, etc. So we're ready to go to the next step.